Welcome back to Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. And the last episode, of course, we did talk a little Philly. We're going to talk Philly again, but just through a different type of lens on this episode. And I figured, let's go to Philly. Let's bring in somebody that knows Philly very, very well. A guy that knows the real deal, as they say. Mr. Courtney Harden. What's going on, man?
What's up, Mike Patton? Thanks for allowing me to come onto the show. Really appreciate it, man. And just talk some football or whatever else you got going on. I'm very excited to be on the show.
Well, thanks again for coming on the show. And, for those that are not familiar, can you kind of give them, your journey to becoming who you are now in the podcasting world and kind of how that got started?
Yeah, definitely, man. I'll give you a shorter version because there's some long versions of it, but I'll give you a short version just to save some time. But I'll give you all the real deal, as you say, as the show says. But it started when younger, just watching the games, football, basketball, all the sport, most of the sports and everything too. And I've always liked to do researching stats, collected the cards and look on the back of the cards and get the stats, things like that. So got into that. Still love doing the card thing, but still love the researching and things like that for the podcast. So scouting reports, things like that. I always love reading, doing a lot of reading and things like that. So fast forward many, many years after high school, after college, things like that. My wife said, she said, you should just do a radio show. And my friends used to always say that too, because you're always debating, you're always putting out stats and things like that. So, but I didn't take it as serious as I wanted to back in the day. So I just love to do it and debate things and all that. So fast forward to about 2015. Yeah, it's about 2015. I said, let me get back into this. And that's when podcasting was really getting big and everything too. A lot of people had podcasts. So I said, well, I could get my hands on podcasts. I was writing some blogs for a couple of websites. And then one of the blogs, I've heard the person that was running the blog said, you want to do a radio show, want to do a podcast? I said, sure, why not? So that's when the real deal began around that time. I reformatted it over the years and everything. So I used to have a co-host at one point, and then I did it by myself. I stopped doing it, got burnt out. I was just doing just so many shows at one point. So that was at 2018. And then 2019, a good friend, Ben Sutter, he was launching his network, the BS3 network. And he said, you want to get on this network. And, I took the full year off in 2018 just to recover and kind of rejuvenate. And I said, sure. And that's when the real deal came back. So for the last 3 years, since 2019, it's been revamped. And here we are in 2022.
Well, man, that was definitely a journey. I didn't know you kind of disappeared and came back. You pulled a Michael Jordan on us. You retired and came back.
Yes, I came back as the Wizard Jordan. And even before then, the show wasn't even called The Real Deal. It was called The Takeover. That's the first show. It was called Takeover, actually. And then that's when I had a co-host and did that for, like I said, for about 3-4 years. And then, like I said, took time out, just got burnt out. And I always talk about that burnout is real. But now that I'm doing it now since 2019, I can do the show, because at that time I was doing it like almost every day or every other day. Now I can just do the show whenever I want. And, I usually do it every Saturday. That's the main show, but I'll have a couple shows during the week. And but the main show is on Saturdays on BS3 Network. It's on all podcast platforms and Roku, BS3 TV app. So yeah, took that time and came back, and now, like I said, the last few years, we're here.
There we go.
Yeah.
Now, we all know, for those that know you, that you are a Philly sports fan. We know. I mean, you talk about the 76ers from time to time.
Yep.
You definitely do talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, though.
Yes.
And of course, I know you're definitely flying high. Of course they flying high.
Yeah.
Do a little spin on that. But they're 10-1. Now, you gotta be honest with me. Did you expect to see them at 10-1 or somewhere around this to start at the start of the season?
Not this start. No, not at all. I thought they were going to be really good. I said, with the pieces they got on the offseason, the draft that they had, I figured they're gonna be pretty good. They're gonna be really good. So I did some preview shows. I had some Eagles writers and things on the show, and we just talked about. So I think I predicted 11-6 at the best. I said they will probably be in the hunt for the division with the Cowboys. But I did not see 10-1. I haven't heard anybody even think about 10-1 at this start. So this is the way they're playing, this is a kind of a surprise to me, and to I'm sure to a lot of people, even non-Eagle fans. So, but it's a great start, and I love seeing the what we seeing on the field too.
Definitely. I mean, I must admit, I do enjoy watching Jalen Hurts play, and I am proud of that young man, especially for all the things that he's overcome in his career in terms of, Tua taking his spot at Alabama, then going to Oklahoma, shining there, then coming to the league, and people still doubting him coming into this season, and it's a very good thing to see him just be the leader, be the guy, and kind of stand in there. But we'll get to that a little later about him. But I did want to ask though. Even though they are 10-1, they did win against the Vikings. It was a thoroughly, sound whooping, basically. But they did have close games against, of course, Detroit Lions to start the year, 38-35, where they let them come all the way back, but still remain control. They threw it to A.J. Brown a couple times and kind of stiff-armed them and kept them at that. But as far as the Vikings, I would say not the Vikings, the Cardinals. I'm sorry, that was a pretty close game as well. Which the Cardinals are kind of miring in mediocrity. So as far as those games, does that kind of give you a little cause to pause, or maybe a little worry about this team?
There is a little. I'm not gonna lie. Over the last, I know we're gonna get to the later games, but the last couple of weeks, there are some concerning things that's happening right now. But and like every other season, a team is not going to just run right through a season. Even when the New England Patriots were undefeated till they lost the Super Bowl, they had some hiccups too, like some close calls. So, but this tells me a little bit about how they're trying to run. They're trying to win a Super Bowl, and there are going to be some games that are just too close. But they're showing ways that they can win, like many ways they can win. They can win close games. They've proven that they can win games when you're thinking, okay, the defense is playing well, but the offense is struggling. They showed that. That was against the Colts. And like I said, I know we're going to get into that too. That was against the Colts a couple weeks ago. So that happened. And then just this past Monday night or Sunday night, they played against Green Bay, and it was a shootout. They got a lead early and jumped on them. That's okay. This could be one of those type of games, but they still got Aaron Rodgers over there. Aaron Rodgers is still a very good quarterback, great quarterback, even as struggling as Green Bay's doing. But they show that they can actually, there's some adversity. This might be a shootout. Defense is giving up a lot of points. We can do this. So against those teams like Detroit, and when they beat down Minnesota, so that just shows you different ways that they can win. So there's a little bit of concern, but not as much from those games, not as much.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Definitely, a little bit of concern. I definitely, for me watching, but of course, all teams can't ride high the entire season.
Right.
There has to be some peaks and valleys. Speaking of peaks and valleys, and there's been a lot of valleys, I would say, in the AFC South, besides the Tennessee Titans,
yes.
of course. It hasn't been pretty, watching the Texans, watching the Jaguars, and watching the Colts play this year. It has been interesting, to say the least.
Yes.
But the Philadelphia Eagles have taken on a lot of these teams. And, of course, they haven't taken on the Titans, which the Titans matchup is this Sunday, and we'll get to that. Yeah. But they have taken on the Texans, they have taken on the Colts, and they have taken on the Jacksonville Jaguars, which was the first matchup. Remember, the Jacksonville Jaguars were 2-1, and everybody was thinking, they might get Philly. They might get Philly. Well, it ended up being 29-21. Trevor Lawrence didn't necessarily have the greatest game. I know it was raining, but still some of those fumbles and throws. Yeah. Nah. But they ended up winning the game. Of course, Jalen Hurts didn't necessarily have the greatest game. 16-24, 25, 204 yards, one interception. But Miles Sanders showed up. Now, I want to talk about Miles Sanders for a minute. Every year it seems like he kind of gets dinged up and he's out for a stretch. But this year, he's been healthy, he's been available, and he's run hard. How impressed have you been with him, or surprised have you been with him that he's, one, stayed healthy, two, ran the ball well, and what are kind of your expectations for him going forward?
I've always liked Miles Sanders. Because he can catch out of the backfield and he does run hard. But then you said he's been banged up over the last couple of years, and he's had some fumbling issues too, I think, over the last few years as well. But I've always liked him. I've always thought he was a very talented back. I know some Eagle fans have concerns with him, but I think part of it was the play calling. There wasn't enough plays run for him. Even when Doug Peterson was coach, he didn't. I don't know if he just didn't trust him or he said he wasn't available, and there was just those type of things. So even Nick Sirianni, even last season, it seemed like, okay, we're not running the football enough with Miles Sanders, who, with all the running backs we've had, I feel like he's been the most talented one, if not the most talented running back on the roster over the last 3 years. So now that now I think they're seeing that he's actually, they see, okay, they're seeing what I was seeing. They're letting him run the football, they're letting him run hard, giving him the carries. And it seems like when he does carry more than 15 times, they usually win. So I have great expectations for Miles Sanders moving forward, even to later in the season, because they're going to need him moving forward to contend for us to go to the Super Bowl, in the playoffs of Super Bowl.
Definitely. I mean, I always knew he was talented and a talented running back. I just, always had durability questions about him.
Yeah.
And, this year he's I don't know what he did this offseason, but continue to do that, whatever you're doing, because you're
right.
Fresh off the field.
Yes.
All right, we're going to move to another matchup. That was the 29-17 win over the Houston Texans. Now, of course, Jalen Hurts was coming home in that game. So, he had to put on a little bit for the city. But,
yes.
in that game, the defense kind of put it on the Houston Texans, give or take that running performance from Dameon Pierce, by the way. But we'll talk about the running game a little later. But they had 2 interceptions in that game. One of those by a newcomer to the team, Mr. C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Now, the hole in this team that everyone talked about was the safety position, because you just weren't sure what was going to be back there. And then, boom, they made the trade for C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Yep.
He's been a guy that's been like a nickel back, hadn't really been a full-time safety, and then he gets back there and all he does is make plays. Now, I know the fit is great, but what can you say just about him? And then now he's out with a lacerated kidney for a few weeks. So what can you just say about Blankenship, his replacement, and what he's going to have to bring to basically keep the back end of that defense afloat?
Yeah, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, when we got him, I was like, that was surprised. Like, wow, the Saints just allowed him to go. And when the Eagles got him to play safety, and he was leading the league in interceptions. So he's bringing in, and he said himself, he wants to bring an edge to this team. He wants to bring some stability in that back end where the Eagles are getting torched over the last few years in the secondary since Malcolm Jenkins left. So I thought it was a great pickup, and like I said, it does bring an edge to that defense, and it takes the pressure off the cornerback. So, but now he's going to be out, he said, for a couple of weeks. Blankenship showed a little bit in this. I mean, he seemed like he was around the ball a lot, so it looks like he's got a little bit of athleticism, and he seems like he is always in the right spots. It seems like so. Maybe they can hopefully he can just make some plays, be around the ball. Use that athleticism and just until CJ comes back. So, but yeah, I'm loving the edge that he's bringing to this defense.
Well, one thing you can say about Blankenship, he does have a Tennessee connection, by the way. He did go to MTSU, which is in Murfreesboro, which is about from downtown Nashville. I get about 30 minutes or so.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of a connection there between Tennessee and Philadelphia there.
That's true.
But yeah, it's definitely going to be hard to replace him. I know he did pick off Aaron Rodgers, so you got to give him that.
Yes,
but but I will say in the slant pattern with the slant pattern, he's a little off on that one, and he definitely didn't have the gist to try to catch my guy from the Packers on that one.
Yeah, that he took a wrong angle, and well, but what's his name? Like the Packers receiver, he was gone. And it was like, yep, slant pattern, he gone. So yeah, that's where he's got to clean it up. So he got to keep things in front of him, but don't take those bad angles. If not, you're gonna get burned over the middle quickly.
Right. It's Christian Watson. That's what it was. I couldn't
yep.
remember.
Watson.
I couldn't remember his name for the life
Right.
of me. I don't know why. But
yeah.
All right, we'll go on to the next game. The next game was definitely a little tighter one. It was definitely a suspenseful one. If you are a Eagles fan, now the Eagles' offense was in a funk the entire game. The Colts were playing well defensively, and it wasn't like the Colts were running away from them offensively either. But anyway, last drive of the game for the Eagles. Jalen Hurts galvanizes the troops, marches them all the way down the field. Then he just basically goes, a QB, basically just a QB run, basically right up the middle.
Yep.
And basically the middle was parted like the Red Sea, and he was Moses.
Yeah.
So, Jonathan Taylor, 22 carries, 84 yards. We'll talk again. I'm going somewhere with that, mentioning those things. But at that point, they've had a few moments during the season where, they've needed leadership or they've kind of, seemed unsteady. But Jalen Hurts has been right there. He's been the guy to step in. He's like, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. He basically is calm, talks to his team, and they listen to his leadership and follow his leadership. What can you just say about, at his young age, those 53 men listening to him, and like, okay, cool. He is our leader. He's going to take us where we want to go. And then him going out there and do it. What can you say about just his leadership?
That was one of the biggest parts of his, of him, not just his game, but just him. Because as you said earlier, you've seen it in Alabama, you've seen it in Oklahoma. So you've seen how hard he works and the leadership that he brings. And even coming into this season, there was a lot of naysayers. And even for me, I've always been a Jalen Hurts fan. I've always liked Jalen Hurts. So I was just always wondering, okay, how much can he progress? Because this was a season where it just seemed like, okay, nobody believed in him and others had doubted him and all those type of things. And it's like, okay, let's just see what he can do with an offense that's centered around him, a good offense that's centered around him. So they went out and got all those pieces. So they got A.J. Brown. They got all those pieces. They stuck with the run game. And they're allowed Jalen Hurts to continue to progress. So that's why I said I wanted to see what he was going to do this year. But it's going to leaps and bounds. He's just improving, seemed like each and every week. And he said for this Colts game, when the offense was just, like I said, stuck in the mud, they couldn't move the football at all. But Jalen Hurts just seemed, like I said, the calm. And that just shows that quiet leadership that he has. But he's competitive. But it just shows that quiet leadership skills that he's always had. And now it's just resonating to a lot of people and to this team. The team is just they're rallying around him, and he's just seeing like he's just taking over. He's just saying, okay, I'm gonna put the team on my back. Okay, nothing's going on. There's turnovers here. There's all these fluky plays and everything. Let me just take the team on my back. If I need to run for 10 yards, get a first time, I'll do that. Call plays, and then they're giving him a lot of freedom in the offense. He changes plays. I love seeing that. And that's just the trust that the coach staff had in him and the hard work he's put in over the last couple of years he's been in the league. So I love seeing the progression and can't wait to see what this unfolds the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely. Going from a guy that plenty of people question to an MVP candidate is a big progression, and a progression I'm pretty sure a lot of Philly fans love to see, and a lot of just fans of great young men like to see. And he definitely is a shining example, in my opinion. Now, you spoke of carrying people on your back. Now, I'm pretty sure Derrick Henry's back is a little sore from carrying the Tennessee Titans offense for the last few years on his back. Now, I will say this, Ryan Tannehill has made some plays. And of course, A.J. Brown was in Tennessee last year, so he made some plays too. So I'm only saying that tongue in cheek. I'm just kidding. But, Derrick Henry is a force. And, going into this game Sunday, which I have dubbed the A.J. Brown Bowl, it's going to be Derrick Henry trying to get it together. Now, let me explain just a little bit. Ben Jones has not been in there the last 2 weeks, which is he is the starting center for the Tennessee Titans. So they moved their guard over to center, and they put in Dylan Raditz, who was in the competition for the offensive tackle spot with Nicholas Petit-Ferrer and lost it. They put him at guard. So that has been one thing that's happened. But Ben Jones might be back this week. So if he's back, maybe they have a little bit more beef in there because the guy they moved to center is 285 pounds. He's a 285-pound guard. but he's strong, but he's just 285 pounds. He's just
right.
But with him back in there and with Derrick Henry coming now, I did mention just a little bit Dameon Pierce having over 150 yards against that offense when you knew they had no other weapons beside Dameon Pierce that you could count on. So with a Ben Jones coming back, with a Derrick Henry not very happy after what happened last week, and with a team that I don't know if you all will stack the box like the Cincinnati Bengals did, they literally had like 6-man fronts against the Tennessee Titans. Now with him coming off that game, him probably not being very happy, and him probably trying to set a tempo and a mood. How nervous are you going into this game, seeing that big 604, 250-pound back line up back there with a head of steam?
Oh my goodness, that's concerned. I'm very concerned about this one. And you talk about the running aspect of it, and that's where the Eagles they made moves. They might be getting Jordan Davis back, which will help, but they've made the moves, but they're still not stopping the run. They're getting gashed, and I mean they're getting gashed in all areas of the run game, through the middle, on the outside. It doesn't even matter. And then you got now Derrick Henry, as you said, who is so pissed off, who is so ready to just he wants to bang on somebody. And we got a lot of big bodies, but Derrick Henry is a monster. He's a beast, and I'm very concerned. I mean, they're going to have to probably do a 6, 7, 8-man front just to try to stop that run. But even when they do that, there's still holes there. You said Dameon Pierce, even Jonathan Taylor with the Colts. He ran that first couple plays he did that they had. He just ran. Then the Eagles they shut him down after that a little bit, but even then, that first drive, he just ran right through us. And I was like, oh, here we go again. There's another 100 and something yards. Even the Green Bay backs, they did their thing out of the backfield. They're two-headed monsters. So I'm very concerned about that. But I think if they can just contain, I don't think they're going to stop Derrick Henry. They can just contain a little of him, not let him have 100, 150-plus yards, then the Eagles should win this game. But they're going to he could run wild on the Eagles that defensive front.
Now another guy I want to mention, and I will say this, that he's actually been coming on the last few weeks, and he's the guy that the Titans drafted when they made that trade for A.J. Brown. That would be Mr. Traylon Burks. Now the last few games he has made some huge plays in the past. Now he beat Jair Alexander in Green Bay for a deep pass. He got a couple deep passes against them in that game. Last week against Cincinnati, a deep pass where he went up and just bullied the ball away from him. Now this week he's probably going to see Darius Slay. He's probably going to see Bradbury. Bradbury's out there, or is he?
Yeah, Bradbury's still out there. Yep.
Okay,
He's been very quiet though lately.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Great start, but he's been very quiet. So, but yeah, they're still both out there.
So with him actually being there and him actually starting to percolate and make plays out there, does that make you a little nervous too, especially if you try to stack up the line of scrimmage? Because I mean, he is 6'2" and 225. He's a big man.
Yeah, and he's coming on, and as you know, we play fantasy football, so I see the numbers that he's putting up, and he said he's just in the right place at the right time. A lot of times, especially with that fumble that Derrick Henry had on that long run, and he got the fumble recovery. But I think Slay will probably end up being on him. And usually the Eagles they interchange, they run zone, and then they run man, so it depends. Sometimes Slay will just, like he did against Jefferson, he stayed on him. But I don't know if he's going to do that and just keep on him the whole game. But they're going to have to. It is concerning because that play action is real, especially if you said Derrick Henry gets it going. and Tannehill can just now pick his spots when he wants to play that play action. And that's what Aaron Rodgers was doing last week. The same exact thing. We were creeping up to that line. Eagles did creeping up to that line, and you're beating them over the top or with slants and things like that. So yeah, that's another concern. So we got to see how they're gonna call this game defensively in the secondary.
Now, another guy, just I'll throw a name out there. He can go on to the defense, but another guy to keep an eye on too, and he's actually a rookie as well. That would be Chig Okonkwo. Now, he is Okonkwo. I'm probably butchering his last name. My apologies, Chig. I'm sorry. I really did try to kill your last name. My apologies. But anyway, he has made a few explosive plays of his own out of the tight end spot. I mean, the Kansas City play where he took the short pass and for 50 yards, and he had a big play the previous week against he had a big play against Green Bay too. So, he's definitely another guy. And they honestly, in my opinion, with those two guys being explosive players, the future looks bright for the skill players for the Titans, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
But switching over to the defense, a lot was talked about them being physical and not being physical enough. Of course, we know the Cincinnati Bengals defense was more physical than the Tennessee Titans offense, but the Tennessee Titans defense prized themselves on being the more physical team. And just last week, it just didn't seem like it was that way at all. I mean, Kevin Byard talked after the game. He said, hey, they were just more physical than we were. Mm-hmm. And for a Titans team to admit that takes a lot. So going into this game, are you worried about the physical front they have, which it may be without Danico Autry again, which that's a huge concern for the Titans because he's the tag team partner for Jeffrey Simmons. But are you concerned just about the physical nature of the Titans and their front four, and just because the thing that I hear a lot of people talking about is Philly runs the football, but they don't mash on people. Yeah. So are you concerned about just the physical nature of the Titans defense versus the Philadelphia offense?
The offensive line is going to have to be physical, and there are a lot of games the Eagles can be physical. You said when they run the football, when they're cemented to running the football, kind of like last week, they were physical and they were able to. And then that offensive line loves that. Delane Johnson, Kelsey, they can play a physical bully ball when they need to. And when Jalen Hurts is running the football physically, and then those three backs running it physically, they can match up against a physical team. So I guess it all depends. I don't know what game plan the Eagles are going to do. Like you said, they could beat you in a lot of different ways. If they run the football like last week, they can do that. Or is Jalen Hurts going to have to go back and throw the football 30, 35, 40 times? I like the balance attack where he doesn't have to throw it so much unless he really needs to. But then they get those explosive plays down the field, establish the run, and establish that physicality, as you said. But against another physical team like the Titans, it could be strength versus strength. So I think that's the best way they're going to have to do it. But if they can't run the football, it's got to be an aerial attack, and the Eagles can do that too. So we'll see if who's going to out physically. If it's going to be the defensive line of Tennessee or the offensive line of the Eagles. But the Eagles, they do sometimes play finesse. So so I can see that. But they got to run. They got to run hard, and they got to run right through that defensive line. So we'll see if they can do it.
Well, a couple of things I will point out to you as well. The Tennessee Titans aren't necessarily the greatest in terms of covering the pass. Safety position, they're solid. It's the cornerback position still trying to get everything set up. Now they have Christian Fulton, but they have a rookie over there, Roger McCreary. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if you see A.J. Brown and Roger McCreary a couple times in this game, and maybe Christian Fulton too. So, that's something to keep an eye on. And another thing to keep an eye on when you talk about physical players, and he's a physical player, but he's a fast player, and it's David Long Jr. at linebacker for the Titans. That's a guy that definitely jumps off the screen. Just to give you a heads up, they need to get their hands on him. And the biggest thing for him is he's an undersized linebacker, but he finds ways to make you miss in the hole to make the play. And he's done it for his entire career, which is amazing that he's able to do this. For
right. So the Eagles with that, and to neutralize that means they will have the offensive line's got to move, because we do have an athletic offensive line too. Jason Kelsey, he gets out there on that second level and he's ready to hit guys. So that's what we're gonna do if we're running the football. and we're running effectively. I think that will have to be one of the keys to beat the Titans.
Now, of course, I'm not going to, get you on here and then not talk about the NFC East. We're going to talk just for a second. We're going to talk about the NFC East. Now, you all are leading the NFC East, but of course, everyone talks about, well, the Cowboys are this, and they might be this, they might be that, and you have people talking about the Giants, which are the surprise team, along with the New York Jets, and then you have the Commanders, which they've kind of gotten going with Heineke back there, slinging the rock and, well, not necessarily slinging the rock all the time. But anyway, he's, made a few plays, made a few things happen. He's just winning ball games. And, funniest thing is, to me is that Carson Wentz, this is 3 strikes you're out. But, that's another story for another day. But, it's just, what can you say just about the competitiveness of the NFC East this year? I don't think anybody saw this coming.
No, I knew that. I predicted the Giants would be a little bit better, not this good, and I thought it was going to be a two-horse race with the Eagles and Cowboys, because Cowboys were they were going to be good anyway. But with the Washington Commanders, and they said Heineke taking over for Carson Wentz, and it's like it's just one of those things. So Wentz just cannot he just can't keep a job. It's like he gets hurt or struggles, and then the backup comes in and it takes over. So we're seeing it again. So this is it. This is it for Carson Wentz as a starter, definitely. But then Washington, that's our one loss. That's the Eagles' one loss against the Commanders. They came in there and the Eagles committed 4 turnovers in that game, and it was very uncharacteristic of them having 4 turnovers in that game. So, but Washington's playing with a lot of heart, and it's a very competitive division. The Giants are playing very well. I feel like with the Giants, though, in my opinion, they're Saquon or bust. I think if Saquon doesn't, and we're seeing it now, they're starting to lose some games. Saquon doesn't have one of those great games, and they're not letting Daniel Jones really. He doesn't have many weapons either. The availability of his wide receivers, so he can't do too much. So, but he's not running with his legs, and then Saquon, we're seeing it. But the Giants have improved tremendously, and I think the Eagles, we played them twice. We played them next weekend, the last game of the season, so we still got them twice. But the Cowboys are still, to me, the team I'm more concerned with, only because we got them Christmas Eve. So we'll see how they match up. They didn't play against Dak the first time, so but I think the Eagles, that's the game. I think that's really just circled on the calendar, but very competitive division.
And now, I'll say this: you have the Cowboys, you have the Eagles, you have the Commanders, and you have the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
All 4 teams would, I think, as it stands right now, all 4 teams would be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now, of all of these teams, which one do you expect to fall off? Because I honestly don't expect all 4 to make the playoffs. Do you expect 3 to make it, or do you expect just 2?
Well, that's a good question. I think the Eagles and Cowboys will make it. I don't know if the Giants are good. And that's the thing. The Washington's playing so well right now, man. They're on a hot streak right now. So, man, I can see all 4. I don't know. I can see all 4 making it, but then I can see 3. But if I had to pick one of those 2, I think Washington will actually fall off. I think the Giants will get it together because they do have Saquon Barkley, and he's such a weapon back there. As long as he stays healthy, I think they will. But I think Washington will be the team that actually would fall off if one doesn't make it. But I can see 3 teams actually out of the NFC East making it.
Okay. All right. Well, I kind of have a different name for the Giants. I call them Saquon Barkley and the Pips. But
right.
we're just going to leave that one right there.
Right.
But we definitely have reached towards the end of the show.
Okay.
But, of course, we've got 5 questions. I got 2 answers for you, and you got to make one choice. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right. As far as their Eagles, their impact on the Eagles, Terrell Owens or Deshaun Jackson?
Oh, man. Oh, man. If I go long-term, I'll say, oh, no, T.O. got to a Super Bowl. I mean, he did. I mean, he was right there to the Super Bowl. And he's the Hall of Famer. But, man, Deshaun Jackson was such a big play weapon, and he was there for the long term. I'm going to go I'll go T.O. just for the impact he had for those 2 years that he was there. And that was the weapon Donovan McNabb needed. And they got, like I said, they got over that hump, getting to 5 NFC championship and then finally getting to the Super Bowl. And T.O. playing on a broken leg and put up those numbers. So I'm going to go with the Hall of Famer. As much as I love Deshaun Jackson, I'll go T.O.
All right. Michael Vick or Donovan McNabb in Eagles green?
That's another good one. I'll stick with McNabb. I'll say McNabb. As much as I'm a Michael Vick fan, if anybody that grew up with me knew how big of a Michael Vick fan I was and still am, I'm going to go with McNabb because he's one of the greatest Eagles of all time. So I got to give it to McNabb.
All right. He said he's got some Campbell soup for you on that.
I'm sure.
But, all right. I've got Hugh Douglas or Mr. Joyner.
Ooh. We'll go Seth Joyner. I'm gonna go old school for this one. Just the impact that when he played on those Buddy Ryan defenses. I gotta definitely go with Seth Joyner. And Hugh Douglas just got to the Eagles Hall of Fame just this past Sunday night. So, but yeah, I gotta go Seth Joyner.
Yep, definitely. Okay, this one I'm interested in your choice on this one because yeah, Andy Reid or Doug Peterson.
Ooh. Oh man, Doug Peterson got a Super Bowl, but I'm still gonna say Andy Reid because I'm just an Andy Reid guy. I wish he would have got the Super Bowl with us. I really do. And 15 years. I mean, Doug Peterson's always gonna have a special place here in my heart. Just winning getting that first Super Bowl. But I gotta go. I'm just Andy Reid. To me, Andy Reid's the better coach, so gotta go Andy Reid.
All right, we're going to go Cowboys or Commanders. You got to pick one team to cheer for one game.
Oh, man. To me, this is pretty easy. I'm going to go Commanders only because I just despise the Cowboys. And just some of their fans and, nothing against them, but, they go way overboard sometimes, Super Bowl every year and everything. So I'll pick the Commanders. I can't cheer for the Cowboys.
All right. And now that's the end of the 5 questions, but I do have a bonus one for you.
Okay.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on this one.
Okay.
You have to face one team in the playoffs. Would it be the 49ers or the Cowboys this year?
Cowboys. I do not want to see the 49ers and that defense and those weapons. And no, I do not want to see. Now, the one thing Jimmy Garoppolo, like you said, he's a solid quarterback. I do like him, but prone to mistakes and sometimes in those playoffs. But they got the defense, and now they got a lot of weapons. Ooh. So I do not want to see them. I would rather see the Cowboys, definitely.
All right. Well, this time it was actually 6 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice, but it's usually 5 questions and 2 answers and 1 choice. But anyway, we have reached the end of the show. I want to thank you for coming on. Courtney, the floor is yours. Tell everyone what you're working on, what you got going on, and where they can find you.
Yes. Just had a bunch of shows this week. Just talking with a lot of people in the media, sports media. Do a lot of women in sports media just to give them a platform so they can just tell their story. So be on the lookout for more shows coming up. Don't have anything slated for the rest of the week, so be on the lookout for next week. But yeah, you can follow the show at Get the Real Deal on Twitter. You can follow me at Courtney 110979 on Twitter. Courtney Harden, if you said, they say Google me, you Google The Real Deal with Courtney Harden, you get all the shows there. And like I said, on all podcast platforms, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So yeah, definitely check out all the content there.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you everyone for tuning in. You've been tuned in to Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. We're out.
Thank you.